Hi everyone. I'm trying to get over a cold, so I'm going to do the best I can on this speech. So just bear with me on it. You always hear there are two sides to every story. Do you find this to be true or not? Personally, I always try to find something that I can either agree to or disagree to, because there's not always just one way to view things. A lot of people get stuck in their own way of thinking and not realize that there is another side. You don't necessarily have to be for, you don't always have to be against. You can be open-minded and, look at both sides and, you might learn something from either side that maybe you weren't aware of, when someone's talking to you about something. The one thing that, topic that kind of interested me was the death penalty. This is a picture of a table, that they lay the prisoner on when they're going to execute them. As you can see, you have their pillow, you have the straps that they strap them down to. So it's kind of interesting. There are some people that are for the death penalty, and there are some people that are just frankly against the death penalty. I personally am against the death penalty. I feel that, it is murder. No matter how you look at it, you can try and rationalize it all you want to. But in the end, that's what it is. You're murdering someone. Um, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I am against the death penalty. The first one being is that it is very expensive. The second is the criminal learns no valuable lesson. And the third, well, the death penalty is just simply a form of murder. Pursuing the death penalty is a lot more expensive than letting someone just sit in prison. According to the death penalty information website, the state of Kansas conducted a survey that showed that a court case pursuing the death penalty averaged $395,762 compared to not pursuing the death penalty of $98,963. Seeing those figures, you might ask, well, who pays for this? Well, we know for certain it isn't the prisoners. So, well, then who? Well, it's us taxpayers who pay this. We pay that. California has the highest number of death row inmates with 733, followed by Florida, Texas, and Pennsylvania, according to the Wikipedia website. In California, the cost could cost taxpayers over $9 trillion to execute inmates that are on death row. According to the Tampa Bay Times website, the longest person that has ever been on death row was for 40 years, and his name is Gary Alford from Florida. Being that these prisoners are in fact on death row, they are normally in prison for over 20 years. So in reality, when you're looking at it, what is the point of us as taxpayers to pay to help support the death penalty, only for the prisoners to sit in prison for years and years, and sometimes the death penalty is never conducted because, if you think about a prisoner and let's say they commit a crime, they go in there when they're 40 years old and they're sentenced to the death penalty. Okay, well, they're going to be sick. They could sit in there for, till they're 60 years old. Well, the older you get, the more likely you are to, die of natural causes. It just so happens that, that guy, Gary Alford from Florida, he actually did die from natural causes. He ended up with a tumor in his brain and it ended up killing him. My second point is the prisoner learns no valuable lesson if they are put to death than if they were to serve a prison sentence. From the time we are born, parents are always trying to teach us the difference between right and wrong. As we get older, we learn that there are consequences for our actions. When we do something wrong, we learn that there are repercussions for them, and we have to learn a valuable lesson from our wrongdoing. So when you look at a prisoner, and they go on trial for a crime they committed, and let's say they were sentenced to the death penalty, are they really in fact learning their lesson? The answer is no, they aren't. A prisoner who commits a crime is sentenced to the death penalty is not learning a valuable lesson. They are just dying. They are not suffering for what they've done. While those people will in fact be in prison for a long time before they're executed, they know that they're getting off easy because they will in turn be executed. They're not going to suffer for the crime they've committed. They simply know that, hey, I committed this crime, I know I'm sentenced to the death penalty, that's what's going to happen to me. You know, they prepare, that's what's going to happen. My third one is the death penalty is a form of murder in my book. When a prisoner is sentenced to execution, you are in fact saying it is okay to murder someone. An example is a criminal who commits a dozen murders. He goes to trial and is sentenced to the death penalty. So you're basically saying you murdered someone, now you are going to be killed for the crime you committed. So in all of that, it isn't okay for the criminal to be murdering a dozen people, but it is okay for us to murder the criminal. That seems a little hypocritical to me. You can't have it both ways. You can't say it's not okay for the criminal to murder a dozen people, but it is okay for us to, our jurors, to sentence this prisoner to the death penalty. According to the pros and cons on the death penalty website, 1 in every 7 people are actually innocent. So that's just another reason for why the death penalty should not be enforced. It is possible for a person to be murdered for a crime that they didn't in fact commit. In conclusion, it is important to remember that there is never one side to every story. You can always see something from either side, you just have to be open-minded about it, what you are listening to. The death penalty serves no direct purpose. It is very expensive and wastes a lot of taxpayer money. The criminals do not learn a valuable lesson by being sentenced to death, and the death penalty, in fact, is a form of murder. So when you are hearing of or thinking about things to be for or against, consider these facts in regards to the death penalty. And that's the end of my speech.